Hello and welcome to Instant Impact with Elyse Archer. I'm your host, Elyse, and today's episode goes out to all of my high achievers out there. You guys know who you are. I'm raising my hand with you. There is a high likelihood, if you self-identify as a high achiever, that you have experienced more than once feelings of burnout, of beating yourself up because you didn't get a result you were looking for, of things being hard, of grinding, of burning the candle at both ends to accomplish your goals. And I think even more importantly, or more of a threat to our well-being, really identifying your self-worth with your achievements. And guys, I want to talk about this episode today because I've been there and I spent so many years of my life like that. I know for those of you who are growing your businesses and building your brands, and maybe you are, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're doing the side hustle thing, maybe you're in sales and you have these big goals you're going after. It doesn't matter how successful you are. If you are feeling burnout, if you're feeling insecurity, if you're feeling self-doubt while you go after your goals, it doesn't have to be like that. And this was a radical concept for me when I first started hearing about the fact that you can accomplish your goals and you can feel good along the way. And it really all starts with how we think. And I wanted to bring on my guest today, Tracy Oswald, as such an expert and guru for high achievers. She brands herself as the high achievers coach, which I love because she is that. And having been one herself and still a high achiever, she's been on both sides of the fence in terms of how she has achieved. And she works with her clients to help them accomplish their goals in a way that feels aligned with who they are, in a way that makes them happy, in a way that is less efforting and more frictionless, fun, alignment, enjoyment of the process. I know all those dirty words that us high achievers are like, there's no way it could work like that. I'm telling you, it can. And Tracy is going to share with you how you can accomplish and go after your big, audacious goals in a way that feels really good. And Tracy is so phenomenal. I've had the honor of working with her on this brand that she's really built as the high achievers coach. And she's worked with so many high achieving, specifically female clients, but this isn't the only thing she does. And this is why you're really going to want to listen to what she has to say. She's the host of the Courageous, Successful, and Happy podcast, and she's a corporate powerhouse. So on top of running her coaching practice and hosting this podcast, she's also the vice president of content and experiential marketing for Local IQ, which is part of the USA Today network. And she's a keynote speaker. I mean, the woman does it all, and she does it in a way that feels good and is fun and is aligned with who she is. And she's going to share with you today how you can do the same thing, how you can go after your goals and accomplish your big dreams in a way that feels like less efforting and grinding and more fun. And so I am just so passionate about this topic because I've seen the change in my life when I started living the way that Tracy helps her clients live. And it's night and day. And so I would really invite you that if you are in a place of hustle and grind and feeling like the only way for things to get done is for you to do them all yourself, and you're beating up on yourself because things aren't where you think they should be or could be as a result, I want to invite you to create the space to really tune into what Tracy has to say, to take notes, to have your journal ready, and to really just be open to a different way of achieving and a different way of going about building your business and your brand. And I can tell you, once you start doing things the way that Tracy teaches how to do, you're not going to want to go back. And so with that, it is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce you to such a dynamite woman, Tracy Oswald.
Sweet.
Tracy, it is such an honor to have you on the show today. I just adore you. I have so much respect for you. I love the way you support other high achievers in their businesses and in their lives. And I know this is going to be an amazing conversation. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my audience.
This is going to be great. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. So, your whole brand is really about helping high achievers to be courageous, successful, and happy, which I love. And I think, a lot of the audience who's listening would identify as a high achiever, whether they're a business owner or whether they're working in corporate, but they're like, they've done the thing, they're high up in the ladder. I'm kind of curious for you personally, How is supporting and coaching high achievers something that you became passionate about?
Yeah. So, it's funny. It was definitely an evolution in my coaching practice as well as my life, right? Because I absolutely identify as a high achiever. And what I found as I started coaching other high achievers was that high achievers tend to be really wrapped up in their successes and in their achievements, almost to the point where if they're not achieving, then who are they?
Mm.
Right. So, and I felt that way for a long time myself too. So I wanted to really create a program for them that was different than other coaching programs. And there are lots of other coaches doing great work out there that deal in things like time management and public speaking and, how to really create, a business plan for a business. And that's all great work. But the thing is, high achievers, they can do that, right? Time management, easy, creating projects, easy. It's how do I now create and step outside of the loop that I find myself in, this default mode, and really create at a much higher level?
Hmm. Talk to us more about for the achiever who's so wrapped up in their achieving that they don't know who they are outside of it. I
Mm.
personally have had many years of my life where I could very much relate to that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's a lot of people listening who can probably get that, where it's like, you don't know what your value is outside of what you're creating, whether it's financially, whether it's at work. So I'm curious for you, like how you kind of got out of that yourself
Yeah.
and how
So,
did you start to go down that path?
yeah, it was definitely a journey. It started back in 2012.
Mhm.
So a lot of people talk about a time in their life where they had this amazing breakthrough or experience that changed everything for them. That's what happened to me. And I went to an immersive theater show in New York. I thought it was going to be just a night out, right? And what was interesting about this is called Sleep No More, and I hope you link it in the show notes. And everyone who is in New York or goes to New York goes to experience that show because it's mind blowing. But what was really interesting was the first time I went, I was shocked by the sense that you had to wear a mask the entire time. So a mask that completely covered your face
Mhm.
and you couldn't talk through the whole experience. And the experience was walking around through 5 floors of this huge warehouse in Chelsea. And the story is based on Shakespeare's Macbeth. And you get to interact with the actors and you get to interact with other guests. And what was so shocking to me, Elyse, was that it was for the first time that I realized that I had been wearing a mask pretty much my entire life about who I was and how I was showing up, not just at work, but at home, in my relationship with my family, with friends, and with myself.
Mm.
And it was this really polarizing moment, but so powerful. And I started going back and I kept going back because it became this sort of mirror or playground for me to explore my connection to myself and to other people. So absolutely a defining moment. And I think a lot of high achievers listening can relate to the fact that, or the feeling of having to put on that mask, right? To be that high achiever, consistently wearing it. I see you're shaking your head, right? You know that feeling. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And it can really, it can be its own form of a prison because when you're a high achiever, and for all of you out there listening, it's like you've become really good at something. And maybe it's something you love and that's great. But for a lot of high achievers, it's just something that they were good at early on in their life and they got accolades for, right? And they kept getting reinforcements for.
Yeah.
So they kept going in that direction. And then the reinforcements became this, need for them, right? So they kept doing the thing that they were very good at and maybe marginally liked. And it all of a sudden, 10 years later, they're in a career where they're really successful doing this thing, and not happy because it's not connected to who they are as a person, and they've lost sight of even who that could be.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious, and I don't know if there's a perfect answer here, but let's say that there is someone who totally identifies with what you've said, and they're now in a career where, let's say they're making good money, they're
Yeah.
high up in leadership, maybe they've created a business out of it, but they realize that they've done what you said, which is
Mhm.
they've gone down a path that was validated by other people, but it's totally out of sync with who they are. Obviously there's a lot of fear around making a
Yeah.
change. Have you seen that for your clients? Does it always involve like a massive change where they have to leave that job or leave that career and go do something else and
Yeah.
follow their passion? Or are there ways to maybe bring more of who you are into the thing you're doing and start to identify as
Yeah.
courageous, successful, and happy? Like,
Yeah,
how do
it's
you
so
see
funny you say that because I just had on LinkedIn this week I posted about this thing exactly, and I think the title was when you're unhappy at your job or in your business, that's the worst time to leave is when you're
that?
unhappy.
Ooh,
And
okay.
let me tell you, Elyse, some people loved that I said that, and some people, like someone called me, I don't know, it was evil or sinister, you
Oh,
know, and it, but it was it really
next thing you know,
sparked.
you're making it is when people are hating on you.
Yeah, right.
Seriously.
So it's first about identifying, you know, because everything we do or don't do in life is because we believe we will feel better in the doing of it or in the not doing of it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, and that's, we just want to feel good as humans and feel happy. A lot of times, though, the thoughts that our brain gives us about, you know, this job really stinks, or I'm so unhappy, or I wish I was doing something else. A lot of times those thoughts aren't true. A
Mm,
lot of times our brain gives us, you know, between 50 and 80,000 thoughts a day, right?
mm.
So, and about 75% of those thoughts are negative. And
Wow.
right, and but our brain's just doing its job because we're wired for negative bias. That's just how we operate as humans. That's our biochemistry. Because back, you know, millions of years ago, our brains had to keep us safe and like, don't eat that plant and look out behind that rock. There might be, you know, a saber-toothed tiger or whatever it is, right? But we've kept that. You know, our brains haven't evolved in the sense that our brains still look for all the things that are wrong. We're
Mm,
just wired that way. So a lot of times, nothing has gone wrong. It's just the thoughts that you continue to think that are making you feel really bad. And that's the work that I do with clients, right? Is
mm,
really looking at the thoughts that you're thinking. Are they actually true? Right?
mm.
And we don't stop in our really busy days, especially as high achievers, to take time to ask ourselves, are my thoughts true? Is this really a true thought?
Wow.
Yeah.
What you said is so important. And I want to pause there because I think it could dramatically change someone's life
Oh,
if
yeah.
they learned to just examine the thought all the way through and not just accept it as truth because it came up in your head, but to actually do the work of looking at, is it true, and is it empowering, and does it support me in accomplishing my goals? And I'd like to hear more about, because I do know with so much of your work, it's like the mental side
Yeah.
of performance and how high
Mhm.
achievers can leverage their thoughts and their minds. Tell us more about what's some of the mental work that a high achiever would need to do or want to do in order to
Yeah.
start to feel better as
Right.
they achieve.
Totally. So the first thing, before we talk about the work, I want to talk about what I call the high achievers threshold.
Okay.
And it's a great way to test yourself to see if you're a high achiever and taking it in a direction that might not be healthy or good for you. So high achievers, what they do is they want to accomplish something, right? And in the past, hard work and more work has gotten them to where they are. So if they just put their nose down
Mm,
and do the work and work long hours, they can get it done, right? Because they're really smart. They can leverage resources. They're very creative, even though a lot of them don't think they are. They're very creative, and they have a lot of discipline.
yeah.
So when they have a big idea, right? And we talk about big goals and life dreams. When they have this big idea, they think that they just need to work harder and more to get there. And that's the opposite thing that they need to do, right? So that's the high achiever threshold. When you start thinking, I have this really big dream. If I just wake up at 4 a.m. and start working and work until, 2 a.m. and you can do that, and you can have a marginal level of success, or you can even have great success. My question is, at what cost?
Mm. Yeah.
So that's the first thing, is being aware. And have I hit my head on the high achievers threshold? That's number one. Number two is, and this takes discipline, and it all goes back to the brain work we just talked about. A lot of the work I do is around the circumstances that we believe to be true in our lives, looking at the thoughts our brain gives us, identifying what feeling am I having based on this thought. Then what action am I taking based on how I feel, or non-action or non-action, because non-action is also an action, right? And then what are the results I'm getting? So, and that's how we get results, is we think a thought, we feel a feeling, from that feeling we take an action, and our actions create our results.
I want to ask you about feelings,
Yeah.
because I think for a lot of high achievers, and this is something I believed for so many years, we're taught our feelings don't matter. We're taught, do it regardless of how you feel. Do it scared. Do it, do it if you don't want to. And that's like, it's something that we pride ourselves in, is doing it even when we don't feel like it. And I think I can speak for myself. For a long time, I thought that it didn't matter at all how I felt, and that if I could just power through regardless, it was actually like a badge. It was like, I did it. I made it through. And that was the only way I knew how to make anything happen. So I'd love to hear your perspective on feelings. Do they matter? Should we always feel good? Should we, tell me all the things.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
The conversation that needs to be had.
It really does. One of my podcast episodes is all about scaling the emotional ladder, and like the F word, feelings, that everyone is so afraid to talk about. Feelings absolutely matter. There is no feeling better or worse than any other feeling. All feelings are valid. Even when you feel sad and angry and pissed off and scared, that's important to recognize, right? So everything matters, and being happy is not a better feeling than being sad. All feelings matter, and taking the time to understand and recognize where you are. Knowledge is power, and you're taking responsibility for your life as a human when you stop and think about, all right, what am I thinking and how am I feeling? Because from your feelings, you take action. And I will tell you, and you know this, and a lot of high achievers out there know this, it's just hard for them/us to stop and be disciplined about it. When we take action from a feeling of worry and fear, you get a very different result than when you take action from a place of inspiration, confidence, and belief.
Yes. And that presents the next challenge, I think, for a lot of people, is how, when it seems like things aren't going right, how do I shift into a feeling of inspiration and belief, even when it's like all around me, things feel like they're falling apart? That feels like the hardest thing in the world to do. How the heck do they do it?
Yeah, it is. And it's funny, this just came up. I was speaking at a podcast conference in Dallas a couple of weeks ago, and someone shifted using this method right in front of the whole audience when I was teaching it. It was really incredible. So it's a very simple concept. A lot of people, especially high achievers, think they can and should and have to go from feeling really frustrated to feeling overjoyed, right? They think, I'm really smart, I'm emotionally intelligent, I should be able to make this shift no problem. So they try to muscle
everyone else.
Right, yes. They try to muscle, and you said it, muscle your way to feeling good. Well, just in saying that, think about how that sounds, number one. But the secret to shifting feelings comes in small increments. And the question is, what is a better feeling thought? What is a thought that I can have if I'm feeling there's a project that I have to do, and I don't want to sit down and do it, right? And I think, I hate the idea of sitting down to do this project. That's the thought my brain is giving me. It's making me feel like frustrated and avoiding it. And so the action I'm taking is I'm not doing anything. What's one thought that feels a little bit better? So instead of I hate the thought of this project is this project is not so bad.
Mm.
Not this project is great. This project's not so bad. How do I feel when I think this project's not so bad? All right, I feel kind of neutral. I feel not happy. I don't feel sad. I don't feel scared. And it feels true to me, right?
Mm.
I can shift easily from, I don't want to do this project to this project's not so bad. The important thing is, Elyse, and for everyone listening, is you have to think a thought that makes you, that feels true to you. Because if you go from this project stinks to I love this project, that's not true,
Yes.
right? And you can't manufacture a feeling from a thought that doesn't feel true to you.
Yeah.
So take it in small increments, right? The woman at the podcast conference, we were talking about fear of starting your own podcast, right? And maybe you went through this. I know I went through this when I started mine. She was really afraid. She was afraid that she didn't understand the tech, and she was afraid that she couldn't do it with all the, picking up the kids from the place. She just couldn't figure it out. And that's what she was telling herself. I can't figure this out.
Mm.
And so when I asked that question, what's just a thought that feels a little bit better than I just can't figure this out? And she said, I'm open to figuring this out.
Mm.
And Elyse, in like 3 minutes, she went from I'm open to figuring this. Just got the chills when I said that, because I remember her shift in the conference. She went from I'm open to figuring this out to, you know what? I am figuring this out. And it was like this supernatural, true evolution for her. And when I asked her how she felt when she said, I am figuring this out, she felt empowered, right?
Mm.
Empowered to take that next step.
Yes.
So you can't muscle your way through. You have to take it in steps that feel true.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. It's like we have the choice
Mm-hmm.
of what we think, and using the incremental steps, which, I'm kind of making fun of it, but it's true. I think as a high achiever, like you talked about before, we have these expectations of
Oh,
ourselves that are
yeah.
sometimes like, we're not even human. We expect ourselves
Yes.
to do, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I've been there.
Totally. You think, I
Yeah,
don't need that. That's not for me.
I don't need that.
Like,
I'm so much better than
yeah,
that. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. And I love how it gives you something specific to do. It gives you
Yes.
something specific to work towards, and it gives you a little bit of grace to not have to go from 0 to 60 immediately,
Yes.
but to embrace your humanness
Yeah.
and have a tool to move you into a better state.
Yeah.
So you talk about something on your podcast, on your site, called the self-doubt stigma.
Mm.
And I would love if you could share with us about what that is and how it shows up for high
Yeah.
achievers.
Yeah, for sure. So when a high achiever, let's say a leader, a practice leader, a company leader, a business owner, there's so much pressure on you as a person, as a human, to have all of the answers to all of the things,
Mm.
right? So people count on you that's your job, is to have the answers. And admitting to others, never mind admitting to yourself, when you are a high achiever in that situation, admitting to others that you don't have the answer and you're not sure is crippling. It's something you can't even imagine doing. So those people, those high achievers in that situation, become really isolated because they're carrying this crushing weight of, first, the self-doubt, the doubt around having all the answers and can I really do this? And the expectation that other people have that you should be able to do this because, listen, you're in this role, so you should have all the answers. And then the shame of having the self-doubt. So it's like this double whammy. You're human, so you have self-doubt, even though you're a high achiever. It doesn't exempt you from doubting yourself. In fact, high achievers, I find in all the work that I've done and all the studies that I've researched, high achievers tend to have a higher rate of self-doubt because they're high achievers, right? Because and they're out to prove something. So yeah, and you know that feeling, I know that feeling. So there's such shame for high achievers around feeling self-doubt at all, that it just isolates them and it closes them off entirely about asking for help. And usually a lot of times when high achievers and clients get to me, they're at that point. They're so ashamed of having the self-doubt that it's hard for them to talk about.
Wow. It
Yeah.
goes so deep because it's like
Oh,
perfectionism kicks in of I should be
yes.
struggling with this. How do we get out of it? Is it that we have to ask for help? Is it something else? Like how do we begin to
Yeah.
change?
So listen, this still manifests for me, even though I coach on it, right? Because I'm a person, I'm a human, I'm a leader, I'm a business owner and a high achiever. So I have to really be on the lookout as a coach for my own stuff. But I can't always see my own stuff. So I have a coach to help me with that, right? So how it can manifest, how you can be on the lookout for it if you're a high achiever. So if your calendar starts to look like wall-to-wall, back-to-back meetings, you're probably reaching the danger zone.
Interesting.
If you start it, because and this is the fix for that, which a lot of high achievers don't want to do, and my clients have a really hard time. Once they adopt it, they're like, oh, now I get it. But the antidote to that is creating more white space in your calendar than you are comfortable with.
Which is the opposite of what is
Oh,
taught by
yes.
so many like quote unquote success coaches.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Because a lot of success coaches talk about, productivity and mapping out every single, piece of your day. And I think planning your day is really important, especially when you're ahead of a business practice or a business owner. Of course, you have to plan your day. But when we talk about hustle and grind and efforting your way there and getting a result that is so much less than if you had white space in your calendar, could actually think, right? Like scheduling time to actually think about different outcomes and think about how you can be creative and allow yourself to just have that time to think. That's when inspired action comes. Do you ever notice, and for everyone listening, when you're in the shower, all of a sudden you're just, washing your hair and the hot water feels so good. And all of a sudden you get this amazing idea about where to go next in your business or in your life, or you're working out, or you're taking a bike ride, or you're on vacation. It's when those times that we've allowed our brains to not be working, that sometimes we get our best ideas. It's not an accident. It's really not. It's that our brains finally have the space to surface up all the great ideas that they've been trying to tell us, but we haven't given it time because we're scheduling ourselves within an inch of our lives.
Oh my gosh. I love that you were talking about this, and I so relate to everything you're saying. And even coming from, the background I'm in, where I used to teach people about time management and managing their schedules. It's like we taught that if a moment of your day is not scheduled, you are wasting time.
Yeah.
And I remember I was living that as well. And I would get migraines every Sunday night. I would have extreme anxiety about my email inbox, about things not being managed. And I think I'm on this journey now, so I can just share from like my perspective.
Yeah.
And I think I've been blessed to experience a lot of the shifts that come from what you're talking about. And I know there's still so much more to uncover here for me, but so much of it was from being so self-reliant that the only way something was going to get done is if it was through me.
Yeah.
And it cuts off God, it cuts off community, it cuts off inspiration, it cuts off like whatever you want to call it or rely on outside of you.
Yes.
And I've just been doing this little thing lately, which has really made a difference. I would say my calendar is still probably scheduled too tight, just being honest. But when I have 10 or 15 minutes in between something, which didn't used to happen, so we're making progress, instead of like immediately going into email, I'll pause. And if it's nice enough outside, I'll go outside. Or if it's not, I'll stay inside, and I'll kind of like close my eyes and I'll just like breathe. And I'll say, okay, like spirit, what's next? Right. What is the next inspired action during this time? Right. And if someone is listening, they believe in a higher power, that might work for them. Or even if it's just scheduling, like having the time to think what would actually be the best use of the time. But I'll tell you, what gets done in that 5 to 15 minutes is so much more impactful than the frantic, frenetic energy that would have been brought to it otherwise.
Yeah.
So
I like to talk about impact and impact that matters, because we can have impact all day long.
Talk about it. Yes. Okay. I love it.
We can create a to-do list and we can cross the heck out of every single thing on the list, right? But at the end of the day, we had impact. Sure. We accomplished stuff, but did it matter? Did it really matter in the world, in your work, really, where you want to go, right? For other people. So I'm all about doing the kind of work from an inspired place. And I know that word gets, especially high achieving leaders freaked out from an inspired place. I'm not talking about woo woo. I'm talking about from a place where you feel really good about the work that you're putting out, and you're creating impact that matters, because you can work 2 hours a day and create more impact than if you worked 10 hours a day. It's just the kind of work you decide to do, and the place you decide to do it from.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I've actually never heard anyone say it that way, impact versus impact that matters.
Yeah.
What an important question to be asking ourselves when we're waking up, when we're going about our day, when we're planning our days. Like, yes to all of that. I want to ask a couple more questions,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to have you back because there's so much more.
Sure.
But you talk a lot about developing courage muscles.
Mm.
And I think for a high achiever who only knows how to be successful in one way,
Mm-hmm.
it feels scary, and it does require courage to think about doing things differently.
Yes.
What are some steps someone can take to start to develop those courage muscles if they haven't worked
Yeah.
in a while?
Yeah, for sure. So the funny thing about courage is, like, people always say, like, I got to get some courage. I'm going to get some courage and go do the thing. Right. And you can't get courage. Like, where do you go? There's no courage store to go to. You have like this, there isn't, right? You have to activate it. Courage is already in you. It's really not a big deal. All courage is like, it's this bridge from self-doubt to self-confidence. That's all it is. So when you think about walking over a bridge, what do? What's the first thing you have to do?
You'd have to make sure it was the right bridge that you wanted.
Okay, yes, that's important.
Put one foot in front of the other,
Exactly.
I guess.
Put
right?
one foot in front of the other. Absolutely. So it's about starting to take little steps. So, and there are different ways I work with clients on this, depending on where they are in their lives and work, and the impact that they want to create. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we just do little courage steps, and they have this goal that they want to achieve. And for some of them, it's like a really simple, like, to us, it would be a simple thing. And you work with people a lot around this. So, like, posting a video on social media. Mm-hmm. Some of the highest achieving people I've worked with are terrified to do that. You have classes on it. Yeah. So it's, I'll have them, write some of the things you would like to talk about. And then we talk about, and they do that. And we talk about, how scary on a scale of 1 to 10 was that for you? On the courage meter. Was it a 0 or was it a 10? Oh, it was a 2. Okay, great. And then the next step would be, setting up the equipment that they would need, not even turning it on, right? Setting up the equipment. They come back. How scary was it? Oh, that was like a 5. Like, I started sweating, right? But okay, but you're fine. Nothing happened. You didn't die. It's totally fine, right? Yeah, I'm good. So it's building that muscle around this thing they want to accomplish in small steps, just like the same thing with the shift from the better feeling thought. It's just putting your toe in, and then putting your leg in, and until they've done so much work around it. When we finally get to hitting record and talking, they're so invested that it's like their natural instinct. They can't not do it, right? Because they're high achievers, they can't not do it. Yes. So they've built up enough safety in doing the steps so that they finally press that record button, or whatever the equivalent of the big thing, jumping out of the airplane or whatever it is, right? Yes. So it's about allowing yourself to take it in small steps, and then realizing how you felt. And it goes back to the feelings, right? And what thoughts your brain was giving you, and are those thoughts true? Because at least that's the brain work. It's high achievers from here on out, guys and gals. It's not the hard work and muscle that's going to get you there. It's really getting, leading your brain. It's not even managing your mind. It's leading your brain. And that takes time and discipline, and asking questions about your thoughts and about your feelings. And that's the work.
Wow. And I bet, just like anything else, when it becomes a habit, you can radically shift your gut instincts to things. You can shift the way you think. You can shift the way you show up permanently because
Oh,
it's a reprogramming process, right?
it opens up people to things they never thought were possible, because we all have thoughts and beliefs about how the world is, right? Some people think people are out for themselves, or there's no way I could ever do this, or I don't have the resources to accomplish that. And they believe that it's true in their minds. None of it's true. That's just a thought your brain is giving you. The thing
Mhm.
that's true is, there is a thing that I want to do. That's the truth.
Mm.
Everything else we put on it is the thoughts that our brain's giving us. And that comes from, and I talk about this a ton, is like, I call this success wall. And we build it between us and the thing we want with our thoughts. And it goes like you have an idea and you're really excited about it, right? And your first thought is, oh, I can do this, right? I've done things like this before, no problem. This is good. And a couple days go by and you're doing the thing. And then the next thought is, all right, this is getting a little challenging, right? It's hard, but I can still do it. Then the next thought is, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. And I don't really like this feeling. And maybe I don't want to do it. And we all the way up, and we build this wall. And finally at the top is like, this stinks, I'm out, I quit, right? And we never do it, because we allow these thoughts to build on each other, and we never consider the possibility that any of them aren't true.
Wow. Yes. And I think for anyone who identifies as a high achiever, you are being called to do big, important work in the world.
Yes.
And what I really like, and you and I had a conversation about this recently, what this type of work does is it unlocks these levels of creativity
Yeah.
and access to solutions to problems that when you're in the grind, when you're efforting, like you talk about, when you're not looking up to think, you're doing the same thing over and over again. And it's like you're cutting off your power at its knees,
Oh, yeah.
and if we can learn to access our truth and our real creative power and and do the brain work, right, to really lead your brain, like you said, and leverage the incredible tool that it is, you know I think there's a misconception, especially in our society, in Western society, that you cannot achieve and be successful and have fun along the way.
Oh God. Yes. Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
was so bought in.
Oh my God. Yes. It's like you're not allowed to you're not serious if you're having fun.
Yes.
And I used to believe that. Believe me, back before 2012, I was like, get it done, do the work, fun comes later. That's for like happy hour and weekends.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
when you put the fun first, and this is terrifying for high achievers. And that's why I love this work so much, because the shifts that I've seen people have when they finally understand this and put it into action, when you come from a place of feeling good first, because you're actually having fun with things that matter to you, the kind of work that you can do is off the charts. It's like you bring a complete different energy, thought process, creativity level, and vision to the thing that you actually want to create. So in my coaching and the work that we do, we put fun and adventure, things that shock your senses first, because that's where the real magic happens. That's where breakthrough transformation happens.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I mean, if we could all just lighten up and give
Yes.
ourselves a little bit of permission to have
Right.
fun while we achieve, I think we'd be amazed at not only the experience, but also how much more we are able to do and create, and the lasting impact
Yeah.
of our work in the world. So, okay, I think everyone is going to want to know where they can connect with you and how they can work with you after
Absolutely.
this conversation. So please, Tracy, tell people where they can go to connect with you, to find out about your work, to see about working with you. Fill us in.
Yep, absolutely. So the first place you can go is my website, tracyoswald.com, and book a call with me. Book a discovery call. It is free. We will spend an hour talking about what you want to create in the world and what's holding you back. And we go deep. So I invite you to do that. The other thing to know is I am taking applications now for an immersive coaching adventure, and it's a group adventure. So if you're interested in immersive theater and what it might be able to do for you as a creator, as a high achiever, definitely reach out to me, because we've got a lot to talk about. So that's the first place.
Yeah.
The second place is I love me some LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn all the time. You know this. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect with you. Just send me a connection request. I'll connect and we can have a really great chat there. And then the third place is my podcast, Courageous, Successful, and Happy. I drop every Wednesday. You can subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. But really, let's talk. Book a call with me, and we can make some exciting things happen together.
Oh my gosh. And I have to tell everyone who's listening, this is like the tip of the iceberg of what Tracy does and the change that she creates. And if you felt any sort of energetic shift in your body while she was talking about how you could actually feel every day and what's possible for you and how you could go after these big goals and feel supported and make progress and build those courage muscles, like, connect with her, reach out to her, book the call. I mean, life is short and we really need that support to go after our goals, to live our dreams, and to feel good throughout the process. So I just really want to honor and acknowledge the way you support high achievers and the way you do, because there's not many people doing this type of work.
Yeah.
And I have so much respect for you and how you show up in your life and how you inspire your clients and the people who follow you to show up as their true selves, that they're really being called to show up as and to have fun along the way. And thank you.
Thank you
for your time and for the work that you do and for the change that you're making in the world.
This has been so much fun, Elyse. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.